Hi everyone, it's Lee here and welcome. In this video, I want to share my thoughts so far on Battlefield 6 after watching the multiplayer reveal and reading the latest news that's been put out. But before I get into that, I'm now allowed to say that I've participated in Battlefield Labs as the Battlefield studio team have made adjustments to the NDA which allows us to discuss our thoughts and opinions on the experience of the program and its content from March the 7th up to July 31st of 2025. So that means I won't be allowed to talk about anything new in Battlefield Labs after that date. I was invited into Labs for the second playtest. I think that was part of the second wave of invites, and I tested a couple of alpha builds over that time period, but I haven't played the build we all saw the content creators play during the multiplayer event. Throughout this video, I will refer to my experiences in Labs as I go through everything. There's a lot to talk about, so let's start with my thoughts on the multiplayer reveal. Battlefield 6 looks amazing. The destruction is and looks awesome. They're calling it tactical destruction, where you can demolish the environment for a strategic advantage. For example, you can make holes in ceilings or walls using explosives like C4 or the M320 grenade launcher, and even a sledgehammer to get the jump on your enemies, or make new routes through buildings. Some of the debris remains, which creates new routes through the environment. So now, destruction adds purpose to the overall gameplay and the flow of the maps. The game is a mix of Battlefield 3, 4 and 5. I'm even getting a bit of Hardline vibes from the new map called Empire State. It has this modern, gritty tone and it's very contrasty. Graphically, it looks great. The game is being released on the 10th of October, with the open beta on the 9th and 10th of August, then the week after on the 14th to the 17th, with early access on the 7th and the 8th for those that signed up to Battlefield Labs and got codes from Twitch drops that are available from content creators. This really surprised me as I was expecting this to be either in November or early next year. So it was a pleasant surprise and I can't wait to get my hands on the beta and see what's changed. From what I saw in the event, it looks much better and improved than the last build I played. Something that I thought needed a little bit improvement was the movement of your character, and from what I saw in the build in the event, it looks like this is in a great place now. You have your walk and run with good running speed, and there's no tactical sprint like in Battlefield 2042, which I'm really happy about. Crouch running is back from BF5, and the sliding looks really fluid. You can lay on your back as well as go prone. Also, you can do the combat roll to break your landing from a fall. You can lean around corners and dive to the ground to take cover. Overall, I'm really happy with this level of movement, which is good for creating different skill gaps in the game. I haven't played the beta build, but it seems that it doesn't need to be changed. I do want to touch on the slide mechanic. In my first playtest in Labs, I thought the slide was feeling really good, but after an update to a later build, it had been tweaked and it didn't feel as good in my opinion. Coming out of the slide was a bit clunky, it didn't flow. So from what I saw in the event, it seems that they've improved on that aspect and it's looking vastly better now. I really need to get my hands on the beta though to see how it feels. I just hope that they don't nerf it like they did in Battlefield 1. For those that are worrying about players using it aggressively to slide and shoot around corners, it's hard to hit your target while sliding because your crosshair is tied to the scope of your gun and not the center of the screen. So where your gun is pointing is where the bullets will go. And when you slide, your gun is all over the place. There is sway on the guns that penalizes you too. The sway was a bit too much in the alpha builds, but what I saw in the gameplay in the event, it looks better. Moving on to the vehicles, these look really great to play. Tanks are very dangerous, but can be taken out with a couple of shots if you target their weak areas. When you are firing the cannons on the tanks, they sound really awesome. They pack a punch and it's very satisfying. I saw a clip of someone hanging on the back of a tank, which this is a new feature and will be very useful if you need to hitch a ride, especially if you're an engineer trying to repair your teammate's tank and need to stick with them when they need to move out of danger quickly. There are supply stations for tanks scattered around the maps, so when they run out of ammunition, you need to find one to restock. These stations can be destroyed too. In the multiplayer reveal, I saw some helicopters being shot down by jets rather quickly, so there still needs to be some balance in between vehicles, because at the moment they seem to get taken out pretty quickly. It was hard to gauge how good air and ground vehicles are to control. In the alpha builds, I thought they needed a lot of improvement. It's hard to describe, but tanks felt like they were a bit stiff and a bit on ice. It was hard to explain. But it was difficult to drive them down the narrow roads on certain maps. Jets were really stiff at turning as well. Helicopters weren't as bad as turning, but they still didn't feel right. From what I saw in the multiplayer event, they looked much better, but I would need to try them out for myself to see how much they've improved. I tested the jets and helicopter on the map called Capstone. This is officially called Liberation Peak, and I thought this map was a little bit too small for the jet. Maybe it will feel better on the map if the controls have been improved. We just have to wait and see. Weapons are customizable and have a new attachment system, where you have 100 attachment points for each weapon, and each attachment costs a different amount. So a particular sight would cost 10 points, and grips could be like 20 or 35 points. This allows you to customize a gun to your liking and playstyle. It adds depth to each gun, which I think is good. Battlefield has introduced a firing range that can instantly be entered from the weapon selection menu, which is really handy for testing out how attachments affect your gun really quickly. This is a great addition. There was no sign of a large-scale test range where you can test weapons, ground and air vehicles, so I'm hoping there would be one in the launch. But I think you could probably do this in a private server in Portal. I'm sure there will be players that will create their own test ranges. Something I'm worried about gunplay is that some guns with the right attachments can become beamy because they make it easier to control the recoil. I saw in the multiplayer gameplay some players shoot in full auto with an SMG at enemies around 100 meters away with virtually no recoil. I would like to see some burst fire come back like in Battlefield 4. Add a bit more spread so that guns work at their intended ranges. This adds skill to the gunplay, like I know that I can't engage in combat with someone at 100 meters away with an SMG, so I'll either attempt to get closer to get the kill, or I can choose to engage at that distance, knowing that I could put myself in danger. The damage from weapons does drop off, but I don't think guns should be beaming across the map. It reminded me of Battlefield 2042. The classes are back. No more specialists like in Battlefield 2042. I'm really pleased about this. There's a lot to talk about here. There are the ongoing discussions about closed v open weapons, with many arguments for and against each one. Personally, I'm not fussed what they choose. I do think snipers should be locked to Recon though. In the latest Battlefield community update, they will be allowing us to choose between closed and open weapon modes in the beta. I think this is a good idea to gather data and see how they perform. To my understanding, I could be wrong here. I think they'll be offering different playlists with locked and open weapons on launch too. If they do this, I don't think this is good because it will split the player base up. They should just be bold and pick one or the other and call it a day. You're not going to please everyone. There are 4 classes: Assault, Engineer, Support, and Recon. The class systems each have customizable and class-defining components. The customizable component focuses on weapon loadouts, class gadgets, training, and throwables, where you can explore the roles within the chosen class. And the class-defining component focuses on the signature weapon, signature trait, signature gadget, and weapon packages that reinforce your expectations for the class. There are 2 roles in each class that you can select, each with training paths that give you passive bonuses and extra benefits. This levels up as you engage in teamwork and capture objectives. You start on level 0, which is an immediate passive benefit available on selection. Level 1 and level 2 are enhanced benefits aimed at improving your selected role, which is earnable through team play progression and score XP. Level 3 is a one-time use ability that you manually activate, which either benefits yourself, your team, or your situation in the match. For example, in the Recon class, you can call in a UAV to a marked position for passive spotting. Once you have triggered your level 3 ability, you are sent back to level 2 and you can re-earn your level 3 ability. These training paths are reset at the beginning of each round. So this reminds me of the field upgrades in previous Battlefield games and is similar to what is currently in Battlefield 2042. This system is to try and make classes unique, especially in an open weapon class system. Each class has its own signature weapon, so if you use a bolt action sniper with the Recon class, you can hold your breath longer and you have less sway, but if you were to use it on another class, you don't get those benefits. It's trying to force you to play with the intended weapon for that class. Part of me thinks this is a little bit overcomplicated, but DICE have been exploring ways to differentiate what weapons synergize with each class. For example, in the last test I was in, they added a blue background to the weapons and gadgets to make it easier to see this. I do wonder how this works in the locked weapons playlist though. Will we still need these signature weapon advantages? Let's go through each class, starting with Assault. This is for pushing on the front lines and breaching buildings. In the latest Battlefield community update, they have changed a lot of things. Their signature weapon is the assault rifle. In the alpha, there was an adrenaline injector that had a self-healing effect, but it now clears and boosts resistance to flash and stun effects, enhances tolerance to explosive and incendiary damage, and improves movement speed. I, alongside many others, were against the self-healing. I personally thought it made the class too self-sufficient and encouraged solo play. I would like to see Assault rely on support for heals to encourage teamwork. In the tests, the class also had something called a MK2 stimulant. This was their level 3 ability that allowed you to see enemies through walls. This has been removed from the game, which I am very pleased about. I wanted this removed because I don't think this type of ability is fair. If I am trying to capture a flag by myself and trying to stay hidden, it's a cheap way for an enemy to spawn on the flag and use it to quickly find me. There's a new gadget being introduced, which is the Assault Ladder. This can be used as a ladder or ramp depending on the way it's deployed. This will allow you and your teammates to access unreachable areas, go over obstacles, gain high advantages or surprise enemies in new ways, for example going through a window of a building. This is a very interesting addition. I much prefer something like this over the grappling hook that McKay had in Battlefield 2042, because it allows others to use it, even enemies, plus there will be some vulnerability when climbing them too. There's been a very surprising and big change too, and that is the spawn beacon has been renamed to the deploy beacon and is now part of the assault class instead of Recon. It has a finite number of uses per squad and will self-destruct if the assault player spawns back onto it. So this makes it more of a tactical and limited resource rather than a persistent advantage. Also, it makes the beacon a team play tool for frontline flanking and coordinated squad movement. We've seen this before in Battlefield Hardline, in which they moved the spawn beacon to the mechanic, and this was called the satellite phone. I think having the choice to select the deploy beacon for assault makes sense, and it suits the class more, because this is the role that pushes forward and flanks. It could make gameplay much faster, because you will be in engagements more as you can maintain pressure on the front line. Having a finite number of usage should keep it under control, because I could see this being used by many players. Another change is the introduction of commanding presence, which has replaced the enhanced mobility signature trait. This trait speeds up capturing objectives for nearby squad members and takes your team out of combat status faster. So these changes provide the assault class with more team-focused abilities rather than solo play. I think this is a great idea. A feature that I am concerned about is the option to equip an extra weapon in the gadget slot. They call it the weapon sling gadget. In the alpha tests, we could use any primary weapon in the gadget slot, which is overpowered because you can carry an assault rifle and sniper or an AR and shotgun, so you can cover a wide range of engagement distances. The Battlefield community manager Total FPS tweeted that you will no longer be able to use assault rifles, LMGs and sniper rifles as a second weapon, but can use carbines, DMRs and shotguns. There was no mention of SMGs, which is strange. I'm going to assume you can't use that too. In my opinion, I think they should remove this gadget. It's still overpowered regardless. In the multiplayer reveal, I saw many players running with a shotgun and assault rifle, using the shotgun in close quarter combat and then the AR for when they go out into the areas with open spaces. If they really want to keep this, I think they could look into making the weapon gadget more for limited use, so you have limited ammo or limit the gadget's weapon attachment points. You don't want it to be the class that can do everything. Overall, the assault class is looking better, but still overpowered with the weapon sling. It needed attention because it was lacking after they removed the med pen and the wallhack. Onto the engineer class, and this is for taking out ground and air vehicles using rockets and mines. They can also repair friendly vehicles, equipment and weapon placements too. Their signature weapon is the SMG and their signature gadget is the repair tool. I think this class is looking good. During testing, there was the issue of being able to carry 2 launchers, like a Stinger and an RPG, so you could take out tanks and air vehicles at the same time. It has been said long ago that they will be removing this, so you can only select one as a gadget. I really enjoyed my time testing with the engineer. It was really satisfying blowing up tanks and buildings. Support class provides teammates with ammo and heals, have access to a deployable cover, and have a gadget to intercept grenades and missiles. Their signature weapon is the LMG, and their signature gadget is an ammo and health supply crate. I've been leaving feedback wanting this supply crate to be split because I think it's too self-sufficient and players would be more inclined to use this class because of it. I've suggested that they could have 2 training trees, one for healing and one for providing ammo, so they have to choose one or the other. Another idea I posted, this was back before the latest assault class updates, was that maybe give the medic abilities to the assault class like in Battlefield 3 and 4, as assault was lacking a role. Some assault players wanted the med pen to stay, so this would have been a decent trade-off because someone has to have the health, and it would encourage teamwork as well. Plus, normally medics are on the front lines reviving anyway. When I'm playing as a medic, I'm throwing down smoke and pushing forward, reviving teammates who go down on the way. So this made sense to me. The new feature of being able to drag down teammates and revive them is an excellent idea. It's really fun pulling teammates out of the firing line to revive them. The time to revive is slower when you drag and faster when you are still. So to be efficient, you want to choose the right option for the situation. I wouldn't drag a player if it wasn't necessary, because it's important to be ready for combat quickly. I like these small nuances a lot. It's engaging gameplay. Also, the feature where players can also grab ammo and health from support is back, which helps massively if you have players that aren't dropping supply crates. Lastly, the Recon class. This is for snipers that want to play on the edge of the map to spot enemies using their scope or drone and for getting long distance kills. They also have access to C4 that you can place on tanks or buildings, and a laser designator to guide friendly missiles to their target. After the community update, it's lost probably the #1 gadget that players use the most on this class, the spawn beacon. DICE now wants to strengthen the disinformation and sabotage component of its role, where they are redefining the Recon's training paths by removing the Pathfinder tree and replacing it with Spec Ops. This is a nod to the stealthy, explosive focus class last seen in Battlefield 2. I've not played Battlefield 2. My first game in the franchise was Bad Company 2, so I don't know exactly how good this new training path could be. I don't think anyone has tested it in BF6, so we will have to see if it's in the beta. So in this new training path, level 0 allows quieter takedowns, crouch and pro movement. Level 1 spots nearby enemy gadgets, except when sprinting. Level 2 takes you out of combat much faster and removes the spot on set-off when you go prone. And level 3, the active ability lets you call in a UAV to a marked position for passive spotting, which enhances your squad's situational awareness. The class's signature weapon is the bolt action sniper, and signature gadget is the motion sensor, that is the tugs and not the throwable. The sniper training tree has aim spotting, which is automatic for level 0. I think this should be changed to make it manual, as anyone can sit at the back of the map and quickly scan their scope across the environment to randomly spot enemies. For level 1, sniper hits highlight enemies and prevents healing, and level 2 makes enemies unrevivable if you headshot them with a sniper. This tree is pretty strong. I think being unrevivable from a headshot could be annoying. I couldn't really test the snipers properly in testing, because the sniper scopes were bugged. I wasn't killed by many either, so I need to experience this over a time period to see if this really needs to be changed. I do have mixed feelings about removing the spawn beacon from Recon. In the community update, they write, although the deploy beacon has traditionally been a staple of the Recon class, it hasn't been without its challenges, often being used by solo snipers to redeploy it in hard-to-reach places. By moving it to the Assault class, we're intentionally redefining it as a team play tool for frontline flanking and coordinated squad movement. The spawn beacon has always had the function of a team play tool for those Recon players that like to push forward and flank, to break spawn traps and place a beacon down to help your squad push up with you. I like to play this role too, as well as snipe from range. Assault has basically taken the Recon's Pathfinder role because itself was lacking, but it does make sense for that class to have it. This new training tree for the Recon seems heavily focused on spotting, and it doesn't sound that exciting, but we will have to wait and see how it plays when we get our hands on the game. Maybe it will be the ninja of the battlefield, creeping up behind enemies and getting kills. I do wonder how viable that would be in the game with a pretty fast TTK. Also, I do understand that many Recon players place it far away from capture points at the back of the map and camp, and when they die, they spawn right back to where they are. Majority of the time, it mainly benefits them or other snipers on their squad. Plus, there are those players that don't really contribute that much to the game, where you often see them at the bottom of the leaderboard with 0 to 5 kills, a higher death rate and barely any score. I can see how that annoys other players. I've been in those situations myself where I've wished my squad mates weren't in the sticks. However, the role of the sniper is to camp, to find a vantage point and spot, to snipe enemies, and target vehicles using SOFLAM. Battlefield is a sandbox game. We should be able to play how we like and have fun. I just let them get on with it. Sometimes I like to find a spot where I'm on the outskirts of the map and do long range sniping. I have fun getting those long range kills. It's rewarding. I really enjoyed doing this in Battlefield 4, having sniper battles across the map with other enemies sniping. Those personal battles between players is part of the Battlefield experience. If I'm counter sniping, that means I'm taking away the enemy's focus from shooting at my teammates on capture points. I'm looking over capture points to spot enemies so my teammates can find them easily. You can still do this without the spawn beacon in Battlefield 6, and I will have to adapt, but not having access to a beacon doesn't make it an efficient way to play this role now. The removal of the beacon could deter players from playing Recon class and instead move to the Assault class in the open weapon system playlists so that they can access the beacon. But they will be at a disadvantage because snipers don't synergize with Assault, so they won't be able to hold their breath or get the benefits you get with the Recon class. When I tested the sniper on Assault in the alpha builds, there wasn't that much sway, so it could be manageable to some degree, unless the sway has been increased. If it is manageable, then you may get Assault players sitting at the back of the map anyway. Again, all this needs to be tested and only time will tell. Maybe they could give the deploy beacon with its limitations to Recons too. Then again, in consequence, we could see so many beacons on the battlefield. Moving on to the sound of Battlefield. It sounds really good. Bullets whizzing past you, destruction and explosions, the sound of tanks firing their cannons and snipers shooting their rounds pack a punch. It makes the game feel really immersive. This is probably the best sounding game in the franchise. There will be 9 maps on launch with different varieties of combat zones. So we have Siege of Cairo, which in labs was called Abbasid. This has urban combat on the streets of central Cairo with infantry and tanks. This is a really great map to play. I really enjoyed this one. Iberian Offensive. This was another map we tested in labs and was called Battery. It's set in Gibraltar Street and alleyways, so it's a close quarters map with ground vehicles. Liberation Peak, which in labs was called Capstone, is set in Tajikistan's mountainside. This is all-out war with air and ground vehicles. Empire State in Brooklyn, USA. This is an infantry-only map. It looked really good in the multiplayer reveal, and I really can't wait to play this map. Operation Firestorm, a classic Battlefield 3 map, is coming back. This is all-out war with infantry, tanks, helicopters and jets. Saints Quarter, a fast-paced close-quarters infantry map set in Gibraltar's Old Town. New Sobek City, based in Cairo's suburbs, that has ground and air vehicles. Mirak Valley, which is the largest map at launch with every type of vehicle. And lastly, Manhattan Bridge in New York, USA. This is another close quarters map with helicopters and large-scale destruction. The 3 maps that I played in labs were pretty good and were way much better than the majority of Battlefield 2042's maps. I'm really hoping that the other maps that we haven't seen yet are really good too. There will be many game modes on launch, starting with the classic 3, Conquest, Breakthrough and Rush. Then there's the faster paced modes, Team Deathmatch, Squad Deathmatch, Domination, King of the Hill, Payload and Escalation. Battle Royale will be coming sometime after launch, as it said it was coming soon to Battlefield Labs in the event. Escalation is a new mode where you capture points on the map, and then they are removed and ends with one final point that you have to capture. This sounds very exciting, and I can't wait to try this mode out. Portal is returning, and what we saw in the reveal was very interesting. You can now build and share your custom experiences, using editing tools to create wild experiences. On the website, it mentions you can control the environment by moving, scaling and duplicating objects, design your own multiplayer experiences using NPC scripting, and create your own game modes using custom UI. I don't think this is a full-on map editor where you can create maps from scratch, but this is pretty big. There could be a lot of potential in this. I can see the Battlefield community creating some pretty awesome stuff. You also have access to modifiers, which will allow players to set up hardcore rule modes with one-shot kill and locked weapons, for example, all with full XP. When they said this in the event, I was reminded of those annoying farming XP servers in Battlefield 2042's Portal, so I guess they'll be back. Unfortunately, there's no sign of a server browser with official servers. I want them to bring back a server browser with persistent servers because it helps build communities. You can browse for specific maps and modes that you want to play using filters. It helps with the longevity of the game and makes it easier to join games quickly. It's important for smaller regions too, as not many people play at certain times of the day, so it helps players find the servers that are full and queue to join, instead of being put into an empty lobby and waiting for people to join that will most likely not come. It's very helpful to join servers when you are in a party, as you can find a server that has enough space. In BF 2042, I would be in a party of 3 and go into matchmaking. 2 of us would enter a server and leave one of us waiting to join. I don't want to experience that matchmaking again. It was so bad. Why can't they combine the official servers with Portal and let us filter out the games we want? We want the choice. Finishing up on the campaign, the trailer was awesome. It showed the USA being attacked in New York by a private military corporation called Pax Armata. I read somewhere that they're bankrolled by former NATO states whose agenda threatens to throw the world into global conflict. So the story will be based around these 2 factions. It showed incredible destruction, stunning visuals of different locations that we will be playing through. It seems like there will be a tank mission that looks similar to Thunder Run in Battlefield 3. Also, there was a clip of a squad wearing night vision goggles, which could be a nighttime raid. I really can't wait to play this campaign, and I'm glad that the single player mode has come back to Battlefield. I normally play campaigns before jumping into the multiplayer, as it allows me to get used to the game's mechanics and find weapons that I like. It's important for strengthening the game's identity too, by setting a tone, creating memorable moments, and also gives context to the multiplayer experience. It adds more depth to the experience. Overall, the game is looking very polished, and the core of the game looks to be in a good state. All of the concerns about classes, weapons, and vehicle balancing are easy changes to make. The Battlefield team has stated that they will be still monitoring feedback, looking at data, and making continuous improvements. Nothing is set in stone yet. From their communications and getting us players involved with testing, they seem passionate about getting this game right. Is Battlefield back? It could well be. Let's wait and see how the beta and launch goes. I really want this game to succeed. Lastly, I want to thank the Battlefield team for inviting me to labs. It's great to be involved in a game that I love. I hope this game is successful and becomes one of the best games in the franchise. That will be all. Sorry if it was a long one, I had a lot to say. Many thanks for watching everyone. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Do you think Battlefield is back? Leave your comments and thoughts down below. Have a good one, and I'll see you on the battlefield. See ya!